Hello, my Nerdy-Nawg-Dawgs. This is your math video study guide for chapter 2, multiplication and division. Most of the stuff you guys know. So if you can solve it on your own, go ahead, fast forward. But for those of you who need a review or some assistance, follow along, my friends. Okay, for this test, what you need to know is greatest common factor, least common multiple. You need to be able to identify prime numbers. You need to know the definitions for all that we have reviewed in this chapter. So that would be product, multiples, quotient, divisor, dividend, factors. Those are things you need to know. All of this we've already reviewed in class. I think there's one question on here that you have not yet seen, but it's kind of putting it all together. So I think you can do it. What I want to remind you of in this problem here, it's an equation, if you recall us talking about it. That means that this side here must equal this side. They need to have the same value. Anytime we're using a symbol or a possible variable like a letter, that's algebra, my friends. That's what you guys are doing. So what we clearly see is we can solve for this side, but we don't know how to solve for those symbols yet. So let's do the math that we can do. And we know we can do 312 times 7 because it's got all the information there that we need. And that is 2,184. So now I know that this side, this symbol plus this symbol has to equal 2,184. I might not know what that symbol is yet, but here's what I do know is that this value and that value are going to be the same. They're the same symbol. And I also know that if I split this portion, this amount in half, that'll give me this plus this should equal that. So that's what our next step and what we need to do. And you should have this in your notes, Nerdy-Nawg-Dawgs. But we can take that total and we can divide it into two groups. Remember, dividing this divisor tells us how many groups we want to put it in. And we want to take this total and break it into two groups because I know that this amount plus that amount should equal that. So if I go and do my division, 2 goes into 2 one time, 1 times 2, 2. 2 from 2 gives me 0. I can bring down the next digit in the dividend. 2 goes into 1. Nope, it can't divide into there. I cannot bring down my next dividend until I account for each digit in the dividend. So I need to say 0. It cannot divide into 1. Then I can bring down the next digit, which is 8. Now I can divide into 18. 2 goes into 18 9 times. 9 times 2 equals 18 exactly. 18 from 18 means I have 0 left over. Since I accounted for this digit in the dividend, I can now bring down the next digit, which is 4. 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 times 2 equals 4. 4 from 4 equals 0. There's no further digits to bring down. I'm finished dividing. That also means that I've broken that amount into two groups, and that gave me a total of 1,092. That means that this value is 1,092. This value is 1,092. So if I add those together, they should equal 2,184. We needed to use division to break it into two groups. If there were 3 symbols, you'd need to use division to take that total amount and break it into 3 groups. Okay. All right. Next question. This is similar to something we've done in class, 4 times as much. And if you can model it, you can always solve it. In some cases, you're not going to need to model it, right? But let's go ahead and try for it. So Starbucks sells 228 lattes a day. They sell 4 times as many cappuccinos as lattes each day. How many cappuccinos are sold every day? Well, if this is the amount of lattes and we know it's 228, then cappuccinos are 4 times as much. And so if I'm working with the same value there, then each unit is 228. And I would know that all I need to do to solve for that is 228 times 4. 4 times as much. Remember, there are some other questions where we have some and we're including all the units. In this case, we're just solving for the total amount of cappuccinos. Now, the next part of that is how many are sold in a week? Well, you would need to know that there are 7 days in a week. So you would get the answer here and take that answer and multiply it by 7 days in a week. I think you can handle that, Nerdy-Nawg-Dawgs. Okay, next up. Culver owns a camera shop. Yes, he does. He sells 32 printers the first year. Way to go, Culver. He sells in the second year 6 times as many as the first. In the third year, he sells 8 times as many as the first. How many printers did he sell in 3 years? So again, I'm going to model that, and I'm going to call this year 1, year 2, year 3. So in year 1, he sells 32 printers, 32 printers. In year 2, he sells 6 times as many. So I know that to that one that he sold, there's got to be a total of 6 in my model. Now, each unit has a value of 32. That would be 6 times as much, right? And from there, for the math, I could do 32 times 6. In year 3, it's 8 times as many. So I would need to have 8 units of 32 each. The math on that would be 32 times 8. Now here's the last bit. It asks us to solve for 3 years. So I would need to take the answer to this plus the answer to that plus that first year. Don't forget to add in that first year. Okay, that would be the total of 3 years of printer sales. Way to go, Culver. Okay, here is another question, 3 times as much. They like these. So in school, there are 254 girls. I'm going to label that. We know exactly how many. There are 254 girls. There are 3 times as many boys in school. Okay, that's getting a little repetitive, wouldn't you say? So 3 times as many boys. If this unit matches this unit, then we know that that's 254 times 3, 3 times as many. And once you got the answer to that, the last question is, how many students are there total? So again, you would take this total and add it to the total of girls. Don't forget to start with that first total of girls. Okay. All right. I think you got this. Here we go. This is a question, and I was so excited that so many of you could follow, but it's really about reading and the vocabulary and identifying the parts. So it reads, when a number is divided by 6, the quotient is 427 with a remainder of 4. So we need to take the information that we have and we know, and you guys should have put this in your notes, so you should have it for test day. But what I do know is divided by 6 means that 6 is a divisor. It's going to go outside the bracket. He's the one doing the dividing. If something's being divided by 6, it goes outside the bracket. Now, the second bit of information is it says the quotient is 427 with a remainder of 4. What is the quotient? It's the answer. It's the answer to a division problem. So I know that the answer actually goes up top and has a remainder of 4. Now, the information I don't have is the dividend. What we don't know is what's in here. Okay, but that's okay, Nerdy-Nawg-Dawgs. You guys know how to solve for this. You've been doing it since kindergarten. Okay, maybe the multiplication since 3rd grade. But we can think of it as a number bond, right? So this question mark comes in here. Then we have 6 on one side. We've got the answer 427. We're going to save that remainder 4 there. And then we know that division and multiplication are related. We can use what we call inverse operations to solve, right? So I know that I could do 6 times 427, and that should give me the answer inside. 6 times 427 should answer here. We could take our answer and divide it by 6, and we should end up with 427 plus the remainder. I could take the 427 remainder 4 and multiply it by 6 and end up with that answer. Number bond, inverse operations, they work together. So my first operation is going to be 6 times 427 and get the answer to that. Let's see, do my math. 42. Okay, and I end up with 2,562. But this remainder means that it is in the answer, and when we're doing our dividing, there's some left over. So what do we do with that remainder? We have to add it to our final answer, which gives me 2,564. And that becomes my dividend. Okay, that's what was missing here, 2,564. Okay, guess what, Nerdy-Nawg-Dawgs? I know without question, you can solve for that. We've practiced it a couple times now. Now, this last question, Miss Algren question, we took notes on. You should have this in your spiral notebook. If you want to turn off the video and try to go back and solve for it on your own, I highly suggest that. What I really want to point out in this question is she has this much to spend on equipment, but she saves 650. So it would be like if I were cooking and I didn't use all the ingredients, or I ate some of the ingredients, it's not there as part of the total. That's what I want you to remember. Okay, we did this one together. I feel like you should be able to solve for it. It's a 3, actually then a 4-step problem. In fact, I'll leave my notes up here from class, and hopefully that can help you to solve. Pause it if you can't recall. But I feel like you should be able to get to that, Nerdy-Nawg-Dawgs. Okay, there you go. If you feel comfortable with these problems, I promise you, you'll do just fine on the test.